in order to make the recording available to those who aren't able to join us today. So without further delay, I give the floor to Julie Weeks of the Washington Group Secretariat, who will be moderating session 10 on censuses. Julie, over to you.
Thank you, Heidi. Good day, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us on day 3 of this 21st meeting. Our first session today is going to be another breakout session. And this session was designed really to share information about what is happening in the 2020 round of censuses. This is a very important time, and we've been hearing some information, but we know there are many activities going on. So in these breakout sessions, you will have a choice, and I suggest that you join the breakout room that is regionally most appropriate for your area. And if you are not part of a statistical office or a DPO in a particular area, please feel free to join any one of these breakout groups that you think is most relevant for your experiences and interests. So once in that breakout room, we very much appreciate if you would share plans, share experiences with one another, whether it's plans or pilot tests or results relating to disability data collection in the censuses. We're very much interested in hearing where disability data have been collected and what that experience has been like, in particular, any success or barrier experiences that may have been encountered in the region. And these are the questions that perhaps you may use to generate discussion. I do want to mention that in addition to the data collection period and experiences there, we are also interested in dissemination plans and experiences there if your country or region has gotten that far, and how the Washington Group can support that in particular. So once in your breakout room, you'll have about 20 to 25 minutes. If you could please assign a rapporteur to come back and share a few high-level points that were discussed or experiences that were of significance, that would be very helpful. We'd very much like to hear once we're all back in session together from these rooms. Any other particular points, Heidi? If not, we can launch the breakout rooms, and I'll see you back here in about 20 to 25 minutes. Thank you so much.
So here, each of you can just click on the room that you would like to join, and you will be taken there. So feel free to go ahead and do that now. Thank you.
Is everyone able to see an option for a breakout room?
I don't see it.
I don't
Okay,
either.
let me try to relaunch it.
Thank you so much.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
How about now?
Not quite yet.
Maybe Brianna, maybe is there a way that you could do it? Maybe there's an issue there. I would appreciate your help. I'm going to close mine.
You having breakout room issues? Let's see.
Launching them. Yes, thank you. Ah, there it is. So there
Okay.
should be an icon at the very bottom of your screen called breakout rooms.
So now please make your selection. And as Julie said, we'll see you back in about 20 to 25 minutes. Thank you. Buenos días, colegas. Esperemos
Buenos
un par de
días.
minutos más. Hola, Daniela.
Hola Heidi, buen día.
Buen día. Esperemos un par de minutos más a ver si llegan más participantes que estaban en la sesión principal y que veo que todavía no están aquí, pero no mucho, para que así tengan una oportunidad de compartir las experiencias o los planes censales. Y también pedir si alguien puede voluntariarse a hacer, a reportar en plenaria. No sé si alguien está dispuesto a hacer eso. Alvinia ya sé que estuvo en comunicación conmigo esta mañana y me dijo que no habla inglés, entonces eso no es una posibilidad. Cecilia sé que tampoco. Juliana, ¿qué te parece? Tampoco. Ok. A ver, tenemos a Héctor, a Roberto, tenemos a Luciana. ¿Ninguno se anima? Tenemos a Sonia de Ecuador. ¿Alguien se anima a reportar? ¿No? Bueno, ok, o sea, obviamente entonces lo puedo hacer yo, no hay problema. Pero lo importante es que entonces iniciemos la discusión para que tenga algo que reportar. No sé si apuntaron las preguntas, si no yo las puedo compartir aquí y sé que Alviña ya tiene algo preparado, me lo envió en escrito, entonces, si te parece, Alviña, ¿por qué no arrancas tú?
A todos y a todas. Gracias, Heidi. En efecto, anoche fue que pudimos preparar esto de responder las preguntas porque ayer por motivos de trabajo tuve que unirme a la sesión de la tarde. La primera pregunta que hace referencia a si en efecto a nivel del censo el país tiene pensado o planeado recopilar datos sobre discapacidad, sí. nosotros, como ustedes saben, tuvimos que suspender el censo, que inicialmente era un censo de hecho de un solo día, por la impugnación de unas empresas que se trataba de tercerizar un servicio, y el censo todavía está en proceso de planificación, se está vislumbrando entre el 2022 y 2021. Sí tenemos dos preguntas de discapacidad, donde tenemos algo un poquito complejo en el sentido de que tenemos todavía la pregunta tradicional del enfoque biomédico, eso a solicitud de Sociedad Civil y de la Secretaría Nacional de Discapacidad en Panamá, para mantenerla como un ente referente o comparativo. No obstante, la CEPAL y Naciones Unidas nos han dado su recomendación de que no es correcta la introducción de esta pregunta. Sin embargo, la discusión a nivel nacional no ha sido tan sencilla para excluirla. Y tenemos tenemos dos preguntas de discapacidad, esa del enfoque biomédico, y tenemos el set corto del grupo Washington, con un cambio introducido en el orden de los dominios. Y por primera vez se aprobó el utilizar la gradiente. Así que tiene por lo menos la gradiente de dificultad, no es dicotómica. Están disponibles los datos sobre discapacidad recopilados a través del censo. Bueno, en estos momentos nosotros acabamos de terminar el censo experimental. No obstante, todavía la data no está disponible. Si vamos a tratar de evaluar cómo salió el dato, nos dimos cuenta a nivel de informes que estamos leyendo, porque somos parte de la comisión evaluadora ahorita precisamente de los resultados del censo, de que sí hubo dificultad en campo por la forma en la que los encuestadores hacían las preguntas a los informantes. Así que todavía no tengo disponibilidad del censo experimental que acaba de terminar ahorita el 30 de octubre. No obstante, sí vamos a trabajar con eso. Y para ver la otra pregunta, Heidi, ¿me la puedes traducir, por favor?
Sí, claro, cómo no, Alvinia. Bueno, si puedes mencionar o un desafío o un éxito relacionado a la recopilación de datos para la ronda censal 2020. O sea, entendiendo que todavía no han llevado a cabo el censo, si pueden mencionar tal vez lo que acabas de decir sobre el censo experimental y los desafíos que se encontraron en el campo, eso sería como un desafío interesante a mencionar. Si han habido otros o algún éxito, alguna experiencia positiva. Gracias.
Bueno, desafíos principalmente desde la parte de la capacitación no ha sido fácil, porque nosotros migramos ahora la metodología de censo de derecho. No obstante, la estructura de capacitación sigue siendo una estructura de cascada. Y en el momento en que tú vas transmitiendo de primera, segunda y tercera mano la capacitación, se va distorsionando el mensaje. Esto se vio en la misma recopilación de campo, donde los encuestadores no leían las gradientes en cuanto a la pregunta del grupo Washington al informante. Otro gran desafío que vemos con el tipo de censo de derecho es que nos vamos a tener que conformar con un solo informante por el hogar. Ese informante idóneo se le ha denominado acá. Y puede que ese informante nos cree un mayor sesgo o levante la posibilidad o la probabilidad de que haya una subenumeración de la población con discapacidad en los hogares. Entonces, eso nosotros lo estamos viendo como un desafío. Igual, en la primera línea de capacitación se le dio cabida a los especialistas, es decir, a la Secretaría Nacional de Discapacidad. No obstante, nosotros desde el punto de vista metodológico sentimos que ellos pueden participar en la parte de sensibilización, de la forma correcta en la que nosotros tenemos que referirnos a la población con discapacidad, el enfoque de derecho, más no obstante en la misma metodología de la pregunta, porque sí vemos que hay un divorcio entre la Secretaría Nacional de Discapacidad acá en Panamá con el grupo Washington. Ellos trabajan es más bien con el enfoque de la OMS, entonces ese divorcio nos está creando también un problema en el momento en que ellos intervienen en los procesos de capacitación. Ese es otro desafío que tenemos para cuando vayamos a implementar los procesos de capacitación en el censo real. En cuanto a los reportes, Panamá siempre ha incluido algunos cuadros en uno de los boletines. No obstante, nosotros esta vez tenemos como meta el realizar un informe especial con los datos de discapacidad. Ya se han hecho estudios a profundidad con las variables étnicas, resultado de los censos en el 2000 y en el 2010, y nosotros también queremos tener como país un reporte a nivel de la población con discapacidad con los resultados censales. Eso es lo que creo que puedo compartir en esta mañana. Muchas gracias a todos. Hey.
Gracias, Alviña. Ahora invitaríamos intervenciones de los demás países. También tal vez en horas del tiempo, si no tienen interés en responder a todas las preguntas, elegir alguna, especialmente si hay algún punto que encuentran en común con lo que ha mencionado Alviña recién, ya que para la plenaria lo que voy a reportar es más bien como los mensajes principales y temas comunes que han aparecido. Así que invitamos a cualquiera de los países, por favor.
Heidi, soy Héctor de México, ¿puedo intervenir? Porque en México
Adelante, Héctor, bienvenido.
bueno, se levantó el censo 2020 y se usó la pregunta del grupo de Washington, el set corto, las 6 preguntas. Les comparto la liga donde pueden accesar a toda la información. No les muestro mi pantalla porque hay problemas en la red y se está poniendo muy lento. Entonces, ¿cómo le hago? Aquí está. A ver. ¿Sí lo pueden ver? En ese link está toda la información del censo. Están los cuestionarios, los manuales. Si ingresaron en la parte donde dice tabulado, se puede obtener tabulados específicos sobre la población con discapacidad. Hay una parte que es tabulados interactivos, que es algo así como son como cubos dinámicos, como el manejo de la base de datos, y se pueden generar algunos indicadores específicos para la población con discapacidad. Solo tengan cuidado porque es una opción que se llama limitación o discapacidad y número. Y si se fijan, bueno, si ingresaron, vienen todas las actividades, que es ver usando lentes, oír, caminar, recordar, bañarse, hablar o comunicarse. Y una pregunta adicional que se incluyó en el censo, que es sobre si la población tenía algún problema mental, bueno, alguna condición o problema mental. También se tiene una que se le llama aquí en México la base de la muestra censal, que es más o menos una muestra con un cuestionario empleado que se aplicó algo así como al 1%, al 10% de la población que se estimó en México. Fueron 126 millones, más o menos la muestra es como de 15 millones de personas. Es el 1 y algo por ciento. Los planes para los siguientes años, por ejemplo, nosotros, bueno, en el equipo en el que estoy yo, estamos empezando a planear la encuesta nacional de la dinámica demográfica en 2023. También usamos ahí la pregunta del grupo de Washington. Esa encuesta, desde 2014 usamos la pregunta del grupo de Washington, el set corto, más 2 preguntas, que es mover y usar manos y brazos, y cuánta dificultad tiene la persona de realizar sus actividades diarias debido a problemas mentales o emocionales. Para 2023, para el año que entra en 2021, hasta donde tengo entendido, son 1, 2, 3, son 4 o 5 encuestas que se van a levantar en el INEGI y que también van a aplicar la metodología del grupo de Washington. Esas vienen en el reporte que mandamos. Ahorita no te puedo decir los nombres exactos porque no estoy en mi computadora y la verdad no tengo acceso a esa información. Los desafíos que se encontraron durante el levantamiento del censo básicamente fue lo que ya mencionaron hace un momento. En México el censo se aplica a un informante adecuado, que es una persona residente en este caso en la vivienda, que se supone conoce toda la información del resto de residentes. A partir de lo que la persona que está contestando crea es lo que se capta. No tenemos información directa, cara a cara con la persona. Entonces eso puede crear un sesgo, ya como lo había mencionado, puede haber personas que digan que no tienen dificultad, pero no pueden hacer la actividad, o al revés, que no pueden hacer la actividad realmente, pero la persona que está contestando diga que no tiene dificultad. Bueno, en el censo se aplica, esta pregunta de discapacidad se aplica a todas las personas, desde 0 años hasta 120, creo que fue la edad máxima que se tuvo. Esto nos ha permitido darnos cuenta que muchas veces en los niños menores de 5 años tenemos problemas, sobre todo entre los primeros 2 años de vida hay muchos problemas para que nos declaren las respuestas correctas. Nos hemos dado cuenta que en la pregunta sobre caminar, hay muchos niños de 0 años que dicen que no pueden, pero pues, es lógico porque todavía no pueden hacerlo. Igual tenemos problemas cuando vemos la actividad del autocuidado, que es bañarse, vestirse, comer. Hay niños también de 0 años o de 1 año que aún no pueden hacerlo por sí mismos, entonces lo declaran que no puede hacerlo. Esas son algunas de las dificultades que hemos visto nosotros, tanto en las encuestas y también por lo que nos han comentado en el censo.
Perfecto, muchas gracias Héctor y gracias por compartir este enlace que seguramente contiene información muy interesante para los países que todavía no han llevado a cabo sus censos. Veo que Roberto del Salvador tiene su mano levantada. Por favor, adelante Roberto.
Sí, hola, buenos días. Es un gusto estar participando en este tipo de eventos. Voy a ser un poco más concreto debido al tiempo. Primero, lamentar las dificultades que tenemos con el idioma y en algunos casos pues estamos tratando de adivinar lo que, o incluso utilizando el traductor de Google. Bien, en cuanto a nosotros aquí en El Salvador tenemos muy buenas noticias. Una de ellas es que para el próximo año ya tenemos una conversión oficial, ya no seremos Dirección General de Estadística, sino que hay una conversión a instituto con todos los beneficios que eso conlleva, principalmente en términos presupuestarios y organizativos. Por otro lado, tenemos ya luz verde para poder realizar el censo en los próximos años. Ahorita estamos en la etapa de planificación ya, pero sí concretamente vamos por buen camino. Y en lo que a nosotros nos corresponde por el tema, quiero mencionarles de que tanto el tema de las personas con discapacidad como el de pueblos originarios o pueblos indígenas son dos temas que llevan un enfoque muy importante en estas actividades estadísticas. De hecho, pues creo que las mesas de trabajo van a ser lideradas por nuestra institución y creo yo que mi participación va a ser muy interesante por la experiencia que hemos tenido con el grupo. Por otro lado, acabamos de finalizar la encuesta nacional de salud con metodología mix y el tema de discapacidad, el módulo completo de discapacidad basado en el short set ampliado con consenso de parte del Consejo Nacional de Personas con Discapacidad, Ministerio de Salud, Instituto de Rehabilitación, pues logramos hacer un módulo bastante amplio y esperamos los resultados para el próximo mes. Esto nos va a dar una mejor información estadística sobre este tema, ya que como muchos otros países, pues lamentablemente no hay presupuesto como para poder hacer estudios especializados cada cierto tiempo. Pero esta es la información que vamos a tener más calientita, más a la mano y esperamos pues proporcionarle al país y a todos los organismos internacionales un mejor panorama de cómo está la situación, dónde están, cómo viven, quiénes son de las personas con discapacidad. Ahí quedó.
Muchas gracias Roberto. Sí, será interesante ver esos resultados. Cecilia, por favor, adelante.
Sí, ¿qué tal? Bueno, nosotros creo que Argentina pasa por los mismos problemas que pueden estar pasando en muchos países. Hemos tenido un recorte presupuestario importante en el censo de población y esto implica que nosotros veníamos probando la pregunta del grupo de Washington como se propone, digamos, con el set corto, con el gradiente, y tuvimos que, o sea, nuestras pruebas están basadas en ese ejercicio, y tuvimos que pasar a incorporar la pregunta al cuestionario de hogar, de modo que estaríamos preguntando si hay al menos alguna persona con dificultad o limitación para los 6 dominios del set corto, por sí y por no, porque bueno, como se hace a nivel de hogar, no hay forma de incorporar el gradiente, con el objetivo de realizar una encuesta complementaria al censo, como se hizo en el censo 2001, que digamos, después del censo 2001 se hizo una encuesta complementaria en el año 2002-2003, utilizando ese esquema, que es tener una muestra de hogares con personas con discapacidad y hogares sin personas con discapacidad, para luego hacer una encuesta complementaria. Pero bueno, estamos saliendo con el censo experimental en 15 días, con esa pregunta, y para nosotros eso es un gran desafío, porque bueno, vamos a hacer una prueba, digamos, ¿no? Respecto de cómo nos va en ese sentido. Creo que para por lo menos para nosotros, es un desafío haber tenido que hacer un recorte en el cuestionario, no solamente de esta pregunta, sino de muchas otras preguntas del cuestionario censal, y bueno, tenemos, digamos, la esperanza de poder tener una buena encuesta complementaria de personas con discapacidad, con la posibilidad de aplicar un set amplio, digamos, el set largo, o inclusive preguntas similares a las que aplicamos en el estudio realizado en el 2018, que inclusive incorpora preguntas del módulo de niños, ¿no? Así que nuestra situación actual es esa, y creo que tenemos el gran desafío de ver cómo nos va con esta incorporación a nivel de hogar. Básicamente quería decir eso, para que todos los países con los que estamos compartiendo el Grupo Buenos Aires, y además en la región en sí, estén enterados, digamos, conozcan cuál es la situación de Argentina en este momento. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Cecilia. Juliana, por favor.
Hola a todos, ¿me escuchan? Sí. Acá en Brasil trabajamos con un censo de derecho, así que son 3 meses de colecta, y una persona responde por todas las demás del hogar, que acá llamamos domicilio, pero un poco distinto, pero el mismo concepto. Y usamos la pregunta del Washington Group, pero no el bloque incompleto. Usamos la pregunta sobre oír, ¿no? Caminar y ver. Pero la demás pregunta hacemos una solo, que engloba la pregunta de comunicación, de cuidados personales, ¿no? Autocuidados. Y además de esto, adicionamos una pregunta del Washington Group, pero que no es del conjunto corto, pero de otro conjunto más grande, que es la pregunta de capacidad motora para pegar objetos, sí, para pegar objetos, de todo, porque tenemos que hacer un indicador de capacidad motora, y necesitamos de una pregunta para los miembros superiores, los miembros inferiores, así que usamos caminar y esa pregunta para compor este indicador. Y además de esto también, el WG, por una ley creada, tiene que hacer una pregunta sobre autismo, sobre las personas que tienen autismo en Brasil. Esto fue súper desafiador para nosotros, porque no es una pregunta directa del Washington Group, así que hacemos pruebas cognitivas y una prueba específica de esto para compor una pregunta que no está inclusa en el bloque. Está en otra parte del cuestionario, pero también va a ser un poco como parte de este indicador también. Y para nosotros esa es la principal dificultad, y también seguimos las respuestas gradientes del Washington Group en todas las preguntas, y eso fue un cambio que hicimos, porque en el último censo no hicimos para todas las preguntas, y ahora sí. Y bien, me parece que un poco esto básicamente son las principales que tenemos. El censo acá en Brasil tiene 3 pruebas cognitivas y pilotos que hacemos. En todas estas, el blog fue testado y fue bien comprendido y las cuestiones fueron aprobadas, así como fueron bien hechas. Y ahora estamos haciendo la última prueba y después vamos a analizar los datos de esta para concluir un poco esa etapa de evaluación del censo acá en Brasil.
Muchas gracias, Juliana. Entonces veo por ahora que ya han compartido Panamá, Argentina, Brasil, El Salvador, México. Creo que hay alguien de Ecuador que nos acompaña. Si quisiera decir algo muy breve, tenemos tal vez unos 5 minutos y creo que hay una persona también que se sumó o si hay otros países representados que quisieran compartir. Naribel Valerio, no sé si eres de un país que no he mencionado que te gustaría compartir información sobre o los planes censales o ya la experiencia de censo en tu país. Como dije, tenemos tal vez unos 3, 4 minutos, entonces si hay intervenciones adicionales, por favor que sean breves. Muchas gracias.
Buenos días, les saluda Sonia Herrera, mucho gusto, soy del INEC de Ecuador. Me parece que mi compañero hubo alguna confusión con el tema del link, como había la otra reunión de UNICEF. Bueno, él es el encargado del tema de censos, pero bueno, yo tengo también conocimiento, soy del área de registros administrativos. Entiendo que, bueno, como ustedes conocen, también nosotros tuvimos que suspender el censo por el tema de pandemia. Y actualmente se va a hacer una prueba piloto. De hecho, se está incluyendo en el cuestionario una nueva metodología, se está proponiendo y estamos por hacer prueba. De hecho, estamos a días de hacer una prueba piloto aquí en la Amazonía. Con una pregunta. Lamentablemente, justo creo que compartimos las mismas inquietudes por temas de cortes de presupuesto. Se está incluyendo una pregunta en el censo, va a ser, bueno, hay dos tipos, ¿no? El uno va a ser como una especie de autocenso y el otro va a ser un censo electrónico. Entonces, o sea, prácticamente va a haber un censo puerta a puerta y donde se pueda realizar, bueno, se va a hacer un autocenso, ¿no? El tema de la pregunta, bueno, es del tipo de discapacidad, ¿no? ¿Qué dificultad tiene? Entonces, se ha mantenido con una sola pregunta dentro del formulario y obviamente veremos los resultados, esperamos ojalá que todo salga muy bien, pues vamos a hacer esa prueba piloto casi a unas 3 semanas más o menos. Y eso les podría contar brevemente. Actualmente también lo que les puedo comentar es que nosotros también ya estamos trabajando con registros administrativos, de hecho estamos en la construcción del padrón poblacional. Dentro del padrón poblacional nosotros estamos justo, de hecho hoy tenemos una reunión con el Ministerio de Salud Pública para el acceso a la base de discapacidad. Nosotros ya ya teníamos acceso a esta base, pero bueno, actualmente por temas mismo legales, ustedes mismos conocerán temas de confidencialidad, se está cuidando bastante acá el dato. Entonces, esta base servirá, de hecho a nosotros nos va a servir para la caracterización de las personas con discapacidad y lo que queremos hacer es un análisis parecido al que se hizo en el año 2015 con el censo de Galápagos, donde se generó ya una caracterización y un análisis comparativo con un pequeño censo de derecho que se hizo en las Islas Galápagos en relación al registro de población construido en base a la integración de varios registros administrativos y entre estos constaba el registro de discapacidad. Eso les puedo contar brevemente y muchas gracias por la invitación.
Gracias, Sonia, por contarnos muy brevemente lo del censo de población. Quería profundizar un poco más. Soy Luis Cañizares, pertenezco y trabajo actualmente en el área de censo del INEC de Ecuador. Como mencionaba Sonia, y bueno, se hizo ya, estamos evaluando un cambio metodológico hacia un censo de derecho de las preguntas de dificultades funcionales. Nosotros hemos incluido los seis principales dominios de estudio, pero lo que sí hemos hecho es un cambio dentro de la estructura planteada por el Grupo de Washington. ¿Por qué? Realizamos varios estudios cognitivos, algunos grupos focales, en donde vimos que los resultados se representan de una mejor manera si empezábamos con el dominio de movilidad inferior del cuerpo. Y igual en el tema de los gradientes de estudio, eso sí lo mantenemos como está la propuesta del Grupo de Washington. Indagamos las preguntas a toda la población y igual hemos trabajado ya en conjunto de algunos de los representantes que están en la reunión del Grupo de Washington dentro del PID y cualquier pregunta igual estamos dispuestos a poder compartir nuestras experiencias.
Muchas gracias por compartir la experiencia de Ecuador. No sé si hay algún otro país que quisiera compartir antes de que cerráramos la sección de los censos. ¿No?
Solamente
Cecil,
quería
Daniela de CEPAL, ¿quisieras comentar algo, hacer un comentario?
Sí, pero sentía que alguien dijo algo o no. ¿No? Ya. Bueno, nosotros hemos estado apoyando a los países que nos han enviado los formularios. Hemos tenido un apoyo directo con Paraguay, por ejemplo, en el último tiempo, porque como decía Alvinia, estamos viendo que tanto las organizaciones de la sociedad civil, pero también las contrapartes, que la institucionalidad de la discapacidad al interior de los países no les hace del todo sentido incorporar estas 6 preguntas del grupo de Washington. Entonces, defenderlas para incluirlas, en muchas ocasiones nos están pidiendo un apoyo importante a nosotros, porque quieren saber el total de personas con TEA, el total de personas de esa especificidad que para mí es más desde una perspectiva médica, y no están considerando del todo esta incorporación. Entonces, ahí en general nos están pidiendo apoyo a CEPAL para que podamos de alguna manera estar en mesas de trabajo y transar qué dejamos, qué no dejamos. También es muy imperioso incluir la pregunta si cuenta con un registro de discapacidad, que nuestra recomendación está haciendo que no vaya cerca de la pregunta si incorporan de los 6 dominios. E incluso en otros casos quieren dejar algunas, y el problema también está en las psicosociales. Cómo incorporar, que era algo de que hablaba ayer Sofía, en algún momento, cómo incorporar ese tipo de discapacidad. Entonces, vemos que hay un tema de presupuesto, que no se están llevando a cabo los censos porque sabemos la situación. También está estos desafíos de cómo hacer de alguna manera ese match entre lo que de alguna manera sigue prosperando ese enfoque más médico desde la institucionalidad del tema a nivel nacional, y lo que estamos promoviendo incluso desde las mismas oficinas de estadística de los países. Entonces creo que es un desafío importante en ausencia de información en este momento de todo lo que tiene que ver con las personas con discapacidad. Y bueno, seguir ofreciendo nuestro apoyo a todos los países de la región en ese trabajo conjunto también con ustedes, con el grupo de Washington.
Muchas gracias, Daniela. Entonces veo que Cecilia tiene la mano levantada para el último comentario.
Un minuto nada más. Sí, acordar con lo que dijo Alvinia y Daniela. En nuestro caso el problema no es con la agencia de discapacidad, ya que apoya el set corto, sino que es con las organizaciones de la sociedad civil, que no quieren hablar de dificultad, sino que quieren hablar de discapacidad. Y lo que están planteando es que este modelo no visibiliza, y de hecho en la última reunión se planteó que en este censo no se estaría midiendo discapacidad para ellos, con estas preguntas. Entonces, me parece importante buscar la manera de trabajar juntos en este sentido, porque bueno, es difícil de explicar, y bueno, la idea es poder llegar a que comprendan, ¿no?, que esta es la mejor manera a la que se arribó en este momento para medir en censos y sobre todo en censos, ¿no?, que estamos hablando del censo de población. Simplemente eso, gracias.
Juliana, tal vez tengamos unos minutos. Recién dijeron que tenemos 60 segundos, entonces si es algo muy, muy breve para que no te, o sea, corte en la mitad del pensamiento. Dale.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for your participation in the breakout conversations and sharing experiences with collecting disability data in censuses. I would like to move to our portion where we have a roundtable and share some information from the different groups. I don't have the list of groups in front of me. Let's see. Shall we start with do we have any volunteers to start? We could start with the English-speaking African countries. I picked one.
We can do that.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to be responding for our group. It was a small group. We had 4 countries represented: South Africa, Kenya, Mauritius, and Qatar, who joined us from the Middle Eastern group, which was lovely. All 4 countries have either done the 2020 round or will do the 2020 round by 2022. So South Africa will do their census in 2022. Kenya did it in 2019, Mauritius in July 2022, and Qatar has already did theirs in 2020. And all of those censuses will have either used or will use the Washington Group short set. And in Kenya and Mauritius, 2 questions were added to the 6. In Mauritius, it was an upper body question and a psychosocial question. And in Kenya, I know it was an albinism question. Now I can't remember the second one. Apologies for that. Qatar had a very interesting census experience because they did both an administrative record census where they linked among 10 sources, and then also did a more traditional census where they used the Washington Group questions. I think all of the countries had plans or had done tabulations, standard statistical tabulations for their censuses, and many were also looking to do analytic reports based on the census. In terms of challenges, Kenya particularly was thought they were expecting a higher rate, but looking into that, but also including the cost of some other surveys. So translation might have been an issue, plus for training, but they're still looking into that. So we'll hopefully hear more about that in the future. In terms of what Washington Group might do moving forward, there was some interest in getting countries together, particularly at the regional level, and this is something the regions could do, to kind of compare notes on what happened in the census and share best practices and share how they went about did it. And this would all be towards trying to get greater comparability in future data collections, as well as understanding what happened with the census. And then also some interest in kind of going beyond the standard tables that they would normally put out with their census, because those are kind of predetermined by the census. And maybe having a little bit more collaboration on doing the more detailed analysis. And there was also a suggestion about getting some more standard tabulation plans to highlight various aspects. So I think that is something that we need to do a little bit more work and figure out exactly what that was and how to do it. But I think in terms of comparing notes and experiences, that should be a pretty straightforward thing. Hopefully we could do it through the regional groups, or maybe groups of regional groups. And then thinking a little bit more about the analysis and discussing more about what the tabulation plans could be. That was it.
Thank you, Jennifer. So we have the list up on our screen. We will skip the Arabic-speaking countries of the MENA region at the moment. Maybe perhaps we can move to Latin America.
Sure. Thank you very much, Julie. We had 12 participants in this group representing 6 countries: Argentina, Brazil, Ecuador, El Salvador, Mexico, and Panama. And we also had the participation of a colleague from the UN Regional Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. So some of the common themes that emerge from this discussion is the challenges that the countries are facing in terms of budget shortcuts to carry out their censuses and delays relating to the COVID pandemic, but also to this new economic reality. The countries that presented are all at very different stages. Some are still in the planning stage for their census. Others are in the process of piloting and conducting cognitive testing, and one of the countries had already done its census. So the countries that were involved in piloting and cognitive testing shared some of their experiences, and the country that has fielded its census already shared a link to a platform that has not only some of the results, but also methodology. So I think that that will be interesting for the countries that have not yet done their censuses. In terms of the use of the Washington Group questions, most of the countries are using the Washington Group questions to some extent, but with modifications. And here again, we see a common theme emerging from the discussion that the ability of the countries to apply the Washington Group short set in its total recommendation in the context of a census is challenging due to political issues, not with the national disability entities, but with civil society organizations that have other perspectives on what it means to have a disability and who are not adhering so closely to the functional approach of measuring disability. So this has caused the national statistical offices to have to modify slightly, or in some cases add questions, or to address and adapt to the needs of the civil society organizations. Other challenges that were mentioned have to do with training, but this again sort of relates to the paradigm of disability that is most prevalent in the country, and where in many Latin American countries, the medical model still predominates. So this is a challenge at the time of training enumerators. They also noted the challenge of only having one respondent per household, and the possibility that this can affect the data on these questions. And finally, a challenge relating to the gathering disability data on the population under the age of 2. Finally, our colleague from ECLAC provided an overview of the technical assistance that they have been providing to the countries, and echoed many of the challenges that were noted by the countries as well. And she expressed her continued support and the continued support of ECLAC in supporting countries as they field their censuses in the coming years. That would be it for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next, we have the French-speaking African countries. And if your microphone is unmuted, or please mute if you are not speaking at the moment. Thank you. Was there a French-speaking African group? Shall we move on to the South Asian countries?
Hello, Julie. It's actually the South Asian group and the Southeast and East Asian group combined together. We had the discussion because there were only 2 countries in the South Asian group, so we thought it would be more fruitful if we join another group. Okay. So we had the discussion, the first regarding the plans to have disability data collected in the upcoming census. Well, most of them have already completed their census, including having the Washington Group disability questions included. Some are in the planning stage, and with the inclusion of disability short set of questions, and others have not been able to conduct the census as planned accordingly. So in the group, we had Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, Nepal, Singapore, Hong Kong, and from UNDESA, who was just there as an observer, kind of. So if you look, I'll just talk about briefly from Philippines. They have conducted their census and collected information with regard to short set, and the results will be disseminated next year. They're planning to include the Washington group census in their media census, which will be conducted in 2025. For Thailand, unfortunately, they have not been able to conduct the census as they have planned. So they will have meetings with their stakeholders to discuss the questions. What are the questions to be included from the disability angle? Even though they have not been able to conduct their census, they have applied Washington Group short set in their disability survey, the child functioning module. They had included it first time in 2017, and they plan to conduct this survey next year. For Nepal, their census fieldwork starts tomorrow, and Nepal has never used their Washington Group questions in any of their censuses, but rather they use a different set of disability questions, which actually caters to the needs, their national needs and the national priorities coming from the Disability Act of Nepal. In Singapore, they have conducted a census in 2020 with the inclusion of disability questions and have a long partnership with the Washington Group over the years, and their results are available on their website. Hong Kong, they just finished their census. They're going to they are including the disability questions in their household survey, and hopefully their results will be available on their website in December, and they have no plan to include disability questions in their census. So coming to the challenges that these countries faced, well, almost all of them pointed out the challenges that they faced was that the enumerators having difficulty in the field in explaining the differences between some difficulty and a lot of difficulty. So these challenges was faced even in Nepal in some of the disability questions that they included. So for them, they don't know the borderline between. So it's just a matter of, I guess, preparing better guidelines and better interviewer training materials as well. Philippines also highlighted the same difference, and the differences in the terms of analysis and interpreting the results between mild and severe disability. And these are areas which most of us in the Southeast and East Asian countries felt were the areas that both face some of the challenges, as well as areas where Washington Group could support us in moving forward. So that's it from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Riaza. Next is the European, North American, and English-speaking Caribbean countries. This was a somewhat heterogeneous group. I attended this group. We had representatives from New Zealand, Italy, Sweden, Finland, Moldova, Latvia, Eurostat, and the Slovak Republic. So kind of quite a mixture. Overall, a handful, 3 or 4 countries collected or administered a census. Most of the countries collect information through a registry of some sort where disability data are not collected as part of that data collection. Most of the countries who fall into this group, however, do collect disability data through another household or population data collection that is held separately, whether it be a living conditions survey or a health survey or some other kind of large scale survey. For the countries, 3 or 4 that did conduct a census recently, those censuses have been completed, and they do include disability questions on disability, but not all of them adhere strictly to the Washington Group short set questions. So one of the challenges that we discussed, which Claire raised, but others agreed, was that for data collections or for census data collections, sometimes there is pushback about the granularity of the data collected. So people with certain conditions not quote unquote seeing themselves in the data. And this often happens with people with autism or intellectual or developmental disability. And we talked a bit about the standard responses that, you know, the Washington Group membership is aware of in terms of what the purpose of the 6 questions are and why they are fairly brief, and what you can and cannot collect in censuses. But that still remains a challenge to message that at a larger scale, and for those who are not necessarily survey statisticians or data collectors themselves. So I think that's the update for that group. Are there any other groups that we've skipped over who would like to report? I don't think so, looking at this list. So let me raise or open up to anyone who has any comments or questions more generally on the topic, or directions to discuss anything that came up that resonated with you in our brief reports. I don't see any hands up, and I don't see anything in the chat. Okay. Thank you so much for participating in this session. Heidi, would you like to introduce us to our next section?
Absolutely.
Thank
Our next and final session of this 21st meeting is on meeting accomplishments and next steps. And I give the floor to Jennifer Maddens, who will lead this discussion. Jennifer, over to you.
Thanks, Heidi. Are you showing the slides or should I share?
It's completely up to you. I'm happy to do it.
Let me see if I can do it. Oops.
You may have
Yeah.
she has it up if that's helpful.
Okay, go ahead. Whoops. Never mind.
They're back up.
Okay. All right. Go ahead then, Heidi, next. Okay, so we're just going to briefly go over some of the accomplishments from this meeting and then talk about some next steps. So we did review our activities since the 2020 mid-year meeting and introduce these new innovations, the breakout sessions and the polls and the partner presentations. And we really want to hear back from you all about whether these changes in the way we were presenting the information, the way the agenda was structured, were helpful and useful. And also, since this was the first time, how we might make them better if you think this is something we should build upon. And we heard updates from the Mental Health and Psychosocial Working Group, the Environment and Participation Working Group, Age Adjustment Group, and the Child Functioning Group in terms of the work that is being done by our partners in testing the CFM-TV, and then also on administrative records, not specifically from our working group, but from other experiences and applications. And then we heard the updates from the regional disability statistics groups after the breakout yesterday. Next one, please. The sessions that were focused more on the kind of what others were doing were focused on sharing their experiences with these tools that we have developed. And so we had the presentation from UNICEF and HI on the specific work that they had done in school context with the CFM-TV. And then on the administrative records, there was a real kind of a deeper dive into what had been done in 3 countries, in South Africa, in Costa Rica, and Rwanda. And then from the humanitarian context, where there was clear there hadn't been that much work being done by NSOs in humanitarian context at all, but also specifically on disability. We heard from UNHCR and Education Can't Wait. And then we just finished our session on censuses, where we met again in breakout by region. And then we had the brief partner presentations, one from UN ESQA, talking about what was happening in that region, but also introducing the idea of having a standalone disability survey. And then we heard about the work of the stakeholder group in terms of building tools for OPDs in terms of not only data collection, but how to advocate for better data, but also to advocate with data. So that was pretty much, I think, an overview of what's happened over the last couple of days. And of course, we had the UNICEF launch, which happened earlier this morning, where they announced the new report, the Global Report on Children with Disabilities, which is based on the 6th round of the mixed surveys, and all of that was based on the Child Functioning module, which, as you know, was developed jointly by UNICEF and the Washington Group, and also a new Center for Excellence in Disability Data for Children, and what that group is doing in their new icon and some of the activities that they're supporting. I don't know how many people attended that event. It was quite impressive. It had a lot of lots of things going on, lots of videos, lots of speakers. Claudia presented the report, did a really lovely job, and was very appreciative of the collaboration between UNICEF and the Washington Group, and I think really made a point of how important the work that had been done by the Washington Group was in this. And it, from looking at what was in the chat and so forth, it was extremely well received. They clearly have a bigger budget than we do for putting on a meeting. They had lots of all the videos and a producer, and I was a little jealous, but they had their own IT glitches, so I didn't feel so bad about ours. But there is a recording, and I don't know when we will get it, but they will have a recording, the report, the data. It's all going to come on one big email, and when I'm sure we will get it as the Washington Group. If we'll send it out, you might get it twice, because if you were registered for the meeting, I believe you're going to get that as well. So that was our first session today. Next, please. Okay, so now the most important part, and this is kind of the next steps. This is coming out of the work group presentations, the psychosocial working group is still interested in getting any questions that need to be tested in developing that test schedule, and I'm sure they're interested in having more people test. The more countries that can test the questions, the better. So if you're in an opportunity where you can do testing, that would be great. And get in touch with Margie or Elena about that, and any other questions that you have that they don't know about, please send that to them. The Environment Participation Group, as you heard, is focusing on transportation issues, and they are trying to get a set of all the transportation questions that have been used. So you can send that to the Secretariat, but you can also send it directly to the chairs of the chair of that group. You can send it to Renise, but however you send it, we will get it to them. So they will continue work in that area and try to come up with a module that addresses transportation issues. The Age Adjustment Group will be developing and finalizing this guidance document on age adjustment, and hopefully coming up with some best practices that we would follow in any kind of joint publication that the Washington Group is doing, and hopefully that will happen in the near future. And the Secretariat will continue to facilitate this group of testers of the Child Functioning Module TV, and work with them in developing a guidance document on how to evaluate the Child Functioning Module TV, so that when all the tests are done, we can kind of pull them all together and have some kind of comprehensive review of how things went and what needs to be done less. Because what I think, as was mentioned, the issue here is not, is this module finalized, complete, now everybody take it, but the guidance will probably be around, yes, it's complete and done and you can use it, but use it in these situations. What we still need to do, and we need feedback on, is to determine the role of the Washington Group in developing a particular, a standard disability survey way beyond what we have already done. We heard about what is being done in the MENA region through ESQA. They certainly want to collaborate with the Washington Group, and that's fine. And also, I'm sure they'd be happy to have input from any individual country. But we probably have to think about what's the best way to do that collaboration, and do we want to have more of a joint input to what's happening in ESQA, and how do we get that? And we thought about, we might form a work group on disability surveys that would kind of interact with the work that's going on in ESQA. But we need some feedback on that and whether that's the appropriate thing to do. And then the final thing was, what do we do in the area of developing tools or guidance or whatever for the humanitarian context? And some interesting comments were made at last night's meeting with the Pacific, and that, really very much focusing on environmental disasters. And is there, what do you do when the disaster just struck? What do you do then? What do you do later? And they were interested in moving forward in some kind of guidance document on that. And so again, we need to figure out the best way to do this and identify countries that are interested in working on this as we move forward. And of course, the regional groups hopefully will continue to make progress in advancing each group's work plan. We need to take advantage of the funding in the Brazzaville group and the Southeast Africa group, because that is time limited at this point. So we want to keep moving on that. And hopefully, as the regional groups meet, they will take on board some of the things that came up during this meeting, particularly around the census and sharing experiences around the census and developing maybe some kind of standard reports around the census as part of their work plan. And perhaps there are some regional groups that are more interested in the humanitarian context, and they might want to do a little bit more work there. So I'm hoping that they will kind of take these next steps and figure out how and if they were relate to the work plan that they had in mind. Next one, please, Heidi. Okay, so that's pretty much what we had in terms of the presentation. When you get the slides, there'll be a whole bunch of slides at the end that are more the historic slides that we used to put on when we met in person and we had more time, and we used to do an earlier kind of a pre-meeting review of all the work of the Washington group. So we decided to just include them, put them at the end because we weren't going to go through them given the time frame. You know, as usual, at the end of this meeting, we will do a very brief summary, not a long summary, but also send out some other requests for feedback. And you know, they will be it's very similar to the emails we've sent out in the past to get your feedback on the meeting. But I think we're also do we have a poll to get some feedback that we'll do
That's
next? Because
right.
we sometimes we really do, and I can't emphasize this enough on the part of the Secretariat that we really do want to hear back from you, because we sometimes feel like we are going down a road that maybe we think is a good road to go down, but others don't. And unless we hear from you that you don't want to do that, we'll kind of continue going. But even if you think we should be doing it, it just makes us feel a lot better. We sleep a lot better when we hear from you about your ideas about what's happening and what should happen next. So I really encourage you, when you get the final email, to respond back. But to make it a little easier to respond, we have another poll to get some of your reactions to what happened at this meeting.
Okay, so I'm going to try to launch the poll, and if I encounter any difficulties, I'm going to ask Brianna for some help. But this poll actually has 5 questions, so we'll give you a couple of minutes or maybe a minute to get through it. But we really, like Jennifer said, would like to hear your feedback on the meeting. The questions have to do with some of the innovations we've made, if you like them, if these are things that should be replicated, on how they can be improved. So are you seeing the poll, or you are not seeing the poll? You are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember to scroll.
Excellent. So those are the first 2 questions. Then about having a mid-year meeting, about the topics you would like to see in the mid-year meeting, and if there are other avenues that we should be using to communicate updates and different Secretariat news with you. So if you could go ahead. Did it go away? Is the poll still visible?
Yes.
Okay, I don't see it for some reason. It's kind of strange.
There's also an icon at the bottom of my
Okay,
screen
thank you.
that says polls. And again, all 5 questions are in this poll, so you just need to use the right-hand bar to scroll up and down.
Heidi, the question for about what topics, again, there's only the option of selecting one.
Okay, yeah, that was an issue that we've had with all of these. We wanted to have multiple answer choices possible, but evidently the poll just wasn't set up that way, and we apologize. But if you do have thoughts, we will, in our follow-up email, also be requesting that kind of information. So if there's another idea, or you want to select or mention to us another idea, then that can be done at that time. Sorry about that.
We're open. We are also open to conversation now, so if you do have other topics, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, pick your top one and then keep your second and third and say you would have put that in if you could.
Okay, so we have about 22 people participating. Maybe we can get up to 30. I think that would be break the 50% participation rate.
And everyone should feel comfortable responding to this.
You don't have to be from an NSO, just anyone who's participating in this meeting and who's involved in our work. We'd be happy to hear from you. Okay, just a couple more seconds. So someone says that they can't see the poll. Are you on a phone maybe? I don't know. It's a white box panel that should be in the middle of your screen. And someone else is also saying the same thing. So
Yeah, there is an icon at the bottom of your screen that looks like a bar chart. And says polls. If you click on that, the questions will pop up. If you don't have that icon, I suspect that it's probably one of beyond my technical.
it looks like this right here that I'm circling, except it would be at the bottom of your screen. This, it says polls. If you click on that, then the poll will come up. Bethany is informing us that on a phone, there are green words at the top of the home screen. So that's also helpful. Thank you. Okay, so maybe we'll go ahead and close the poll now. Thank you to those who participated. We had a 50% participation rate. Do you see the results?
No.
No.
Okay, then I will share my screen so you can do that. Okay, so in this poll, I'm sorry about this. It's kind of strange.
You can see the results now.
Now you can see the results because I'm sharing
Yes.
my screen. Yes. Okay, so we asked first if you liked the breakout session format, and a majority of you, 82% of those who participated, did like this innovation. In terms of how we can improve the breakout sessions, the response category that received most votes was having more structure or guidance on the discussion topics in the breakout room. So that's certainly something we could provide going forward if we decide to employ this format again. Another thing that was noted by some respondents is that they would like to have more time in the breakout session. And we take note of that as well today because of the limitations with the child functioning module, I'm sorry, with the UNICEF launch. We had some difficulties in terms of the timing. And then yesterday we also, because of the technical issues, had a little bit to adjust for time. So that's something we can take in mind going forward. Some participants felt that there could be more interaction between regions, and so we take note of this as well. I think this was mentioned by Neda Jafar yesterday, the importance of having sort of this exchange of experience and information, South-South exchange. The third question was about organizing a mid-year meeting, and here again, we see that a majority of respondents, 86%, did indicate that they would like to see a mid-year meeting organized in 2022. So that is something that we will work towards. And in terms of the topics that would be covered, here the responses.
I'm sorry, Heidi, can you scroll? Because we can only see I can only see the first two questions.
Oh, okay, I'm scrolling down, so you're not seeing that?
No, that's okay. Just read.
You need to scroll yourself because it's on all of our individual screens, so you can each person can scroll down the box yourself. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought I was sharing my screen. Sorry for that reason, because people told me that they couldn't see the results.
All right, that works. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, on organizing a mid-year meeting in terms of the topics to be covered, we had proposed data analysis topics. About a third of the respondents felt that that is something that should be covered. Another third felt that experiences from country census activities That would be maybe a topic to be covered. Others, about 21% expressed that they wanted to see data dissemination best practices covered there. But then we also know from Margie's comment that maybe there are other ideas. So at this time, if you have another idea of something you would like to see included in the mid-year meeting, please feel free to unmute yourself, to raise your hand, and we would be very happy to hear those suggestions. Anyone?
Since we couldn't pick multiple responses, is there, when you look at kind of the top, everybody picking their top one, do you think that this pretty much reflects the, if you could pick three, are the top three the ones you would have picked, or you think there's one that's kind of getting lost because it's never anyone's first choice, but would be their second? I know that's hard to figure out, but I think that's the issue here. For some people
I
aren't
think
seeing the results.
I was going to say, I think the additional sessions on partner activities, some of those were really interesting. I didn't put it as my top choice, but that is one that I probably would have picked as my second or third choice.
Great, thank you.
It's, we may, I am interested in hearing what data analysis topics for the 32% of you who chose including that topic in the mid-year meeting. I think it would be helpful to have more specificity. So if anyone wants to share that now, please do so. We can also include this in our follow-up email if you promise to answer it.
There were 9 of you who responded to that category. So we invite you maybe in the chat to say what specifically you meant, because otherwise it's very difficult for us in designing that session to know what would be most useful to you. So if you have something in mind that you would like us to cover, then this would be a very good opportunity to let us know.
Okay, age adjustment was mentioned by Claire.
We will definitely, certainly there are a group of people who were not able to see the poll, and we apologize for that, but we will include the questions from the poll in the follow-up email after the meeting in the next several days, and hopefully you can provide us with some feedback that way. I don't see any hands up at the moment.
We're getting close to the end.
We do have one last question, which is that, as Julie just said, after this meeting, we'll make available a report, and we did the same for the mid-year meeting. But we wanted to know if, in addition to those ways of communicating updates and news and future plans, if the Washington group should prepare some other kind of periodic updates to share among the Washington group membership. And so here we have a majority of respondents indicating that yes, they would like to receive something like that. But here again, I would ask if you responded affirmatively to this question, if you could please provide a sentence or two on what you envision for that. What would be most useful? What would be most informative? What would you actually read? So please let us know your thoughts. Anyone, just either type it in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself and let us know. Nicolas, go ahead.
Okay, let me break the ice because we are not having much speakers. Let me say that yesterday I said it. I will repeat it now. The breakout sessions were a great opportunity to get in touch with the people that we speak in the same languages. Also, that maybe for the future, I know it's kind of difficult, but having the traduction in Spanish for the Latin American countries would be great. Also, they will maybe participate more or say something in their chat. Today I came up here later because I was in another meeting from CLAC, from the SDGs. I'm sorry for that. And also about the last question you were speaking, Heidi, I think we discussed this in the in our committee of the Washington group. I think maybe in parallel of this newsletters or whatever that you are thinking of, maybe I think we discuss it. We could, if it's possible, have like small video conference of selected topics, like I don't know, 1 or 2 hours if we agreed on a date that also could be recorded, so we can make a pool that reflect the interest of the countries, that we could share a topic. We could, the Secretariat could get in touch with a specialist of a topic in particular and have 1 or 2 presentations more from countries to have their views or to share their experiences. I think that that could be a great idea to have in the middle of the annual meeting or the middle meeting, so we can also be in touch only one subject, only one topic. Maybe we could have, I don't know, I'm thinking and I'm speaking without not having a lot to review my thoughts, but maybe we could do like 1 or 2 sessions per I don't know, every 6 months, to have this opportunity to touch, to think, to be involved in one subject. I don't know, maybe administrative records, like Dan speak us yesterday. Maybe, I don't know, the groups to present their things, the regional groups. I don't know. I'm speaking out loud because I didn't think it a lot, but maybe could be a great idea to have this intermediate video conference on one topic only. I think that would be all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicolas.
And so send topics that you would like these on. I think that that was something we asked about last time, I think, and the age adjustment, I think, was one of those that had come up. But yeah, if there are any topics that we can focus in on, and as you say, an hour or 2, that we could do it in between, that would be great.
Keeping in mind that one of the challenges of doing webinars or seminars, that's what came to mind when you were describing this, is still translation. And in fact, it's a bit uncomfortable even for our annual meeting here today that we did not have sign language. We do not have Spanish translation. We didn't have the means or the funds to do that. So I still think it's a good idea, and we have held webinars or seminars. So I'll have to think through that in terms of the language issues.
I was just going to add as well that not everybody will necessarily be willing, but for those who are, it would be really useful to maybe have a list of participants and contact details for those who are willing to share their contact details. So it's easier for us to follow up with people that we want to talk to going forwards.
From this meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Any other closing? I think we're getting to the end. So any other closing thoughts, comments, things you want to share? Now's the time. Then let me thank the steering committee and the other members of the Secretariat for putting together the meeting. It was there's a lot that goes on to put this out, and I thank them. They were all very attentive and absolutely keeping things on time. So thanks very much. I also want to thank Brianna Coleman, who is our IT guru here, who got us through this and with our new innovations, and she's been with us. So I appreciate it, Brianna. Thank you very much. It was it was extremely important that you were here. I think things went quite smoothly. I'm really glad that the new innovations were well received, and it gives us something to work on for the next meeting, the mid-year meeting, or as to respond to Nicholas's request, maybe having some subject matter things. Maybe that's the way we can address some of the issues that came up during the meeting. But I just also then now want to thank everybody for coming. Virtual is great. We can get a lot more people coming. I think we had 107 or around on the first day. But it's not quite the same as seeing you all. And we are really trying to increase the interactiveness of these virtual meetings, but you got to help out. People have to be willing to talk and to provide things. We appreciate you putting it in the chat and for all your comments. We just need more. And again, let me reinforce that when you get the next email at the end of this meeting and what was happened and what we plan, please provide as much input as you can. It is really, really appreciated. It makes our job, Julie and Heidi's and mine, a whole lot easier if we know what you want and what you want to do. So, all right, I think that's it. Thank you again. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Brianna. Thank everyone who was involved in putting the agenda together, everyone who chaired a session, everyone who presented, everyone who participated. As usual, it's been a pleasure, and hopefully we will see you soon, whether virtually or in person. So stay well, and until next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.